think it's still very much lost on the general Canadian sports fan how big the World Cup is and how significant this will be for this country.
Yeah, one thing I'd look at is finding a way to make soccer a 365-day sport here, because it is elsewhere. And what I mean by that is when there's no professional soccer on, it doesn't stop. And I think that's why I'm not almost focused about the professional side, because I think there's a lot of, good work being done to grow, the likes of the CPL, the NSL, the 3 Canadian MLS teams. Like, the professional game is getting to a pretty good place. And fans will have that before the World Cup to get engaged, right? Like, what's going on in Vancouver with the Whitecaps is going to be great for driving interest. What's going on with Atletico Ottawa is going to be driving interest. What's going on, with the Halifax Wanderers and the Halifax Tides and Rapid Ottawa, like, all of this stuff is tying together. Professionally, I'm not too worried about that ecosystem, but I think of the grassroots of, when kids, they fall in love with this sport and want to sign up, are there enough fields for them? Are there enough access? Because I always say this from Vancouver, my experience, there's not enough fields here. How are some ways that, when it's summer and you want to go play soccer, is there pickup soccer available for you to go play somewhere at a field? Are there street soccer courts for people who want to play a bit more of a futsal, a bit more of a different style? Because that's one thing you see when you go to Europe, right? Like, you can go in December 21st for your, holiday vacation, and you can go July 30th where it's not even football season, it's down season, right? Or I guess it would be closer to like June 30th where it's maybe, but you go, there's soccer courts everywhere. People are full. They're on the beach juggling balls. They're at the bars, playing foosball and watching old games on the TV. Out here, can we get more of a 365-day impact of that's like how you really build the culture? And I think you're right, where that's grassroots, that's getting kids involved from day one. That's little things such as facilities so you can go kick around a ball. That's, other things such as making, because funnily enough, soccer culture is piercing a lot of different ways. This is such a small and random thing to pick up on, but over the last few years, things like merchandise has kind of become popular, like Vogue almost, right? Like, we know the revolution of Sambas this year, how everyone seems to own a pair of Sambas. We laugh, but like, that's a soccer thing to have that pierce into the fashion world. People wearing kits. There's a lot of little things like that are happening. I want to see more of it, really make this sport a 365-day activity.
Yeah, I mean, when you go down that path, I think a lot of the challenges of making Canada a full-year soccer country is the climate, because it's easy to say, build a mini court instead of a outdoor rink. Okay, like, you can't use the mini court when it's covered in snow and it's -10, or even colder in a lot of parts of this country. So it is difficult to find a way to play outdoors in the summer.
Futsal, though,
in the winter, is possible.
We have a lot of gymnasiums. What's stopping you from shipping out these nets, futsal nets, to a lot of these schools where they have gymnasiums, community centers, and have it so in the winter you've got, a futsal 2 hours of drop in every week. That feels low, but it's somewhere to start. Like, there are other options for the winter too.
There's plenty of other options, but when you put them inside, they're not in front of you, right? Like, you're not walking past and being like, oh, that looks fun, maybe I should go out and join one day, which I think is still something that does continue to happen at all ages. We see that with pickup basketball in this country. We see that with, outdoor hockey rinks in Eastern Canada and in the middle of Canada as well, that, you have to see it to want to go. And if it's inside, you're not seeing it, then you have to kind of seek it out, which I think doesn't necessarily achieve it. But you're onto something with the fashion side of it, because, I was on the TTC the other day and somebody was wearing Inter Miami Messi branded Sambas. I'm like, oh boy. But why not put Canada Soccer Sambas, right? Like, you can't tell me like a red and like an off-white wouldn't look pretty good with the, Canada Soccer icon on the side of it or something like that. And there's various fashion companies that, Canada Soccer could partner with into sort of like Canadian soccer content. But I think the challenge is there's a lot of soccer fans in this country. It's how do you get them involved within the Canadian game? And I'm not necessarily saying like they should come out to League One games all the time. I'm not necessarily saying they should even come out to CPL games all the time, but just feeling like they're a part of that Canadian fabric is part of the issue, I think, because there's a lot of soccer fans but they don't feel like they're part of that Canadian fabric, even though they are Canadian soccer fans.
Yeah, absolutely. That's obviously huge and the big challenge, right? Like you mentioned, so many people love this sport, so many people consume it in different ways. I guess the big thing as well is to link it all together, to understand that you can be a soccer fan and that doesn't look the same for everyone. For some people, that's maybe you've grown up with a bit more of an interest in the European game because your family, maybe you've come from South America, so you have a strong interest in football down there. Maybe you've always grown up in Canada, and for you, your soccer ecosystem is going to Whitecaps games every weekend. Maybe for some, all the national teams, all they know, especially for some of these younger kids, where both national teams have been pretty good over the last 6-7 years. For a 10, 15-year-old, they might only know a world where the national teams are good. They don't know 8-1s and all these sorts of other heartbreaks that other people might have dealt with. For some, soccer is a lifestyle, right? It's fashion, it's everyday things, it's pop culture. That's another thing, right? You think of, especially in France and in the UK, how many references are there to soccer players in every song of rap of this. So I think there's different ways to really make it an everyday thing for people. Again, that's hard, and I think this doesn't necessarily answer the Kevin Blue question, because I don't think Kevin Blue can be going out there and going to rappers. I guess he could talk to Boy Wonder and be like, "Hey, would be cool if you dropped the Jonathan David like I'm cold like JD line in one of your songs, something like that." But I think those are little things. For Canada soccer, it is a bit of a different question, because you're right, they're focusing on the national teams, but I think that's where an easy one is. Access to the teams, more games at home. We know that, but when the teams are here, make it so that it's an event. People sell it out, that it's not, the tickets are too expensive. It's not really worth it. So I think a great way to create buzz is to have some sold out Canadian games. Unfortunately, the thing with Canada, there's a lot of apathy here in terms of, sporting events, lifestyle events, concerts. But as soon as something becomes trendy, hipster, popular, that's where things pop off. All of a sudden, when a Coldplay's in town and everyone's like, "Oh, hot tickets, sign me up." For some reason, Canada's almost backwards like that, where it's like something has to be trendy, something has to be line. Like we always joke about it in Vancouver. Whenever there's a line at a store, that usually means that people want to go. Well, you kind of got to add that factor to Canada soccer, and maybe by having cheaper tickets and selling out games, people are gonna be like, "Wait, why is it kind of a party there? Maybe I should head out." And those are some things Kevin Blue and Canada soccer could consider that are easy to fix, right? It's easy to adjust ticket prices and interest in friendlies and stuff like that.
And maybe there's even, a thinking outside the box and taking a little bit of inspiration from another Canadian sporting entity. The BC Lions have brought out star power for their season opener games. Dreaming big, like could the Weekender Drake open a Canada soccer friendly against, Japan or something, like a secondary opponent that's not necessarily like within that tier one of drawing massive European, like Eurocentric fans that I think a lot of Canadians are. Could you have somebody like that open a tournament? Drake's probably a step too far. I don't think Kevin Blue's going to go to Drake and be like, "Can you throw in, a collab with Alphonso Davies or something?" But could the Weekend or Bieber come to be a precursor to a Canada soccer game? Like maybe that is within the realm of possibility. And I think that'd be quite cool in some of the lead up to the World Cup, especially at bigger stadiums. You don't need it at Stade Saputo, but if you're going to play a friendly at Commonwealth or BC Place, like why not?
And Canadian music's in a great spot. Like, man, if you get like a Tate McRae, right? She's from Calgary. Imagine you have a friendly in Calgary somehow, and you bring out one of the local artists like her to open a game. Yeah, it's some might laugh and say it's all gimmicky, but these are all things you have to consider to kind of draw in that the larger crowd that for us we laugh because we'd be going to this game if it was Canada versus Sao Tome and Principe, right? Whereas for fans, some other fans they might need a bigger draw in terms of a name. Maybe an artist draws them in, but there's no stone that should be left unturned. And I think really it goes to all levels. I think this kind of discussion shows it. It goes from flashy outside the box ideas, and then it goes to something as simple as having more fields, which is why it shows how much can come out of this World Cup. It really isn't just the however many games that will be played on the field. There's so much legacy that can be left behind. And it was good to hear Kevin Blue in the interview with us. If you haven't heard it, by the way, and you're dropping fresh in this discussion, it's on our YouTube channel. It's on all our podcast platforms. He talked about legacy, and that's a word I love to hear, because I think ultimately with this World Cup, we know it's going to be a great memory, like without a doubt. That's almost without fail. But what's the legacy you leave behind? And that's where you really got to think of ways to draw that out of this tournament.